I am God. I am Kid Rock. When I was a little kid, I used to listen to Limp Bizkit. Okay, I used to wear a red cap when I was a kid. I used to listen to Limp Bizkit was my favorite band. And I used to listen to Kid Rock as well. Although I don't think I actually had any Kid Rock albums when I was a kid. Actually, I don't think I ever bought one. Actually, strangely enough. I mean, I always liked the song American Badass, which was the Undertaker's, the wrestler, the Undertaker. It was his theme tune before it became Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. So, and that when I was that age, I actually used to watch wrestling a bit. When it used to be called WWF, not the World Wildlife Fund, but anyways. Um, so that's the thing, the thing is I'm God, right? What does it mean, Kid Rock? Well, that can mean lots of things. If you know scripture, well, what's a kid? A child, right? So if you're a child of God, right, then who's your rock? It's God, isn't it? Right? So, Kid Rock. Yeah? You understand? I mean, I couldn't put it any more simpler, could I? And when I was a kid, I did listen to other music as well. I've never really, I have listened to different genres of music throughout my life, but during my my early teenage years, before I was 16 years old, um, between the ages of, say, 12, 13, and 16, I pretty much all I listened to was rock music and heavy metal. And I went to quite a lot of gigs and stuff like that. I went to Download Festival at Donington Park, it was the very first Download Festival at Donington Park, I may add. And that was it was really, I had fun there, but the traveling there and back was awful. Took absolutely ages. There was a thunderstorm on the way back, so the train stopped. So I had to wait an extra, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours or something. And something ridiculous like that. And the guy I used to be friends with, his name was James Richards. I went to boarding school with him. His dad was actually in a band called Boys Don't Cry, which was a band that was famous in the late 80s and 90s in America mostly. If you ever seen the movie The Last Boy Scout, where you see Halle Berry, she's in a strip club, she's dancing to a song called "I Want to Be a Cowboy" by Boys Don't Cry. Well, that was it was their biggest song, I think. And anyway, I was the front man of that band called Nick Richards, and his son was called James Richards, and I used to hang around with him a lot, and I'd go to parties at his house, and we'd go to gigs. We went to see Limp Bizkit at Finsbury Park in 2003. And we went to Download Festival, and we went to other gigs together. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, Kid Rock, right? So, I mean, the thing is, I'm God, okay? Man didn't teach me how to speak words, right? God, man didn't teach me. Well, I suppose that's a strange thing to think about, really, isn't it? Because obviously, I've come back to this world, and obviously, I come as a little baby. I'm born as a baby, and I guess someone had to teach me how to speak English or whatever language. That's what happens with babies, right? But demons would love to get confused about it, but I'm God. I gave man the ability to speak. Yeah, I gave him words to speak. yeah? Not the other way around. I'm Kid Rogue, okay? I'm God. You know, if you know the scriptures, you know, I think, you know, what was David, you know, King David, he said that, obviously he was king back then, but not anymore, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, you know, he said in the book of Psalms, he said, you know, God, you are the rock on which we stand. You're the foundation we stand on, basically, right? And you know, when Moses was supposed to strike the rock, or, you know, speak to the rock, you know, God said, you know, his spirit would be on the rock. And obviously, you know what, well, you've heard of holy ground, right, as well, right? Holy ground. Yeah, so, you know, yeah, you know, is it any wonder I'm a roller, you know? I'm always rolling cigarettes. Rock and roll, yeah? Rock and roll. Rock and rollies all day long. So, yeah, what can I say? I mean, I mean, I think when I was a kid, you know, I thought I was quite cool. I would say I rocked a bit, yeah. I mean, you know, people, that's the thing, when I was a kid, I mean, imagine, you know, this is the thing. I'm God, and when I was a little boy, I was a little boy, and I am the creator of everything, the entire universe. And you can imagine how people around me, how my energy affected everyone in the world around me, all the people that were around me, and how people were trying to get close to me, people wanted to be friends with me. I mean, obviously they didn't know I was God, but that's my energy. My energy speaks for itself. Um, and the fact is, well, I'm surrounded by lots of demons, to be honest. But that's the thing. People, they don't know who I am, but they know I have. They sense my power, you know, and they're drawn to me. And so, you know, when I was younger, I was quite popular. I was quite popular when I was a teenager. Um, but you see, it's kind of like, you know, you know, probably, well, maybe as a, you know, the analogy I would like, well, I could say, obviously, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. These people, all they did to do, you know, all these people who got close to me, they were draining me, draining me, draining me, draining me. In every relationship that I had with anybody, it drained me just a little bit every time. Um, if you don't understand that, well, there's a story in the New Testament where Jesus is walking, and there's a woman who had crept up behind him and touched his cloak because she wanted healing power from Jesus. So she went to go touch his cloak, and he knew that you know, it's written that he knew that his power, that he could feel that she had touched his cloak because he could feel the power being drained from him. And so that's basically, you know, what my life's been like. I was Jesus Christ. I'm God. I'm Father. Jesus Christ was my past. I have explained how that works. Okay, I have. Yeah, it's not fair that I have to explain everything in great detail in every single video. You know, you have to actually watch my videos. You know, I can't keep doing it because then my videos aren't ever gonna. Do you know what I mean? If I can't make a nice video, it's, you know what I mean. What can I do? It's hard. It's hard because explaining everything takes a really long time. I've anyway. Um, So the thing is that I was Kid Rock and I am Kid Rock. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting actually when Wes Borland when Wes Borland left Limp Bizkit, that's when Limp Bizkit made the album Results May Vary, and Fred Durst had to learn the guitar, and well, yeah, he was trying to write the guitar parts as well with. So I remember actually seeing him play guitar on the stage at Finsbury Park for one of the songs. I can't remember which song it was, but there was a song that's definitely there. If you look at the performance, there's a video, there's a song, he plays guitar. Um, and that's the thing. When I was at boarding school at that time, I actually bought a guitar. That's the thing. I bought a guitar second hand from another kid at that school called William Lee, or Willie, as everyone would call him, Willie. So his first name was William and his second name was Lee. And I bought a guitar from him, and I never learned how to play it. I messed around with it a little bit, but I never really made any time to learn it. And later, a few years later, I ended up selling it to cash converters because I needed the cash. So, I could buy another guitar if I wanted to. Yeah, maybe if I could find the time, perhaps. If I knew I had another 100 years to live, I would. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I don't. I don't know what the next 5 years or 10 years of my life's gonna look like. So what's the point? Maybe I'll buy one just to mess around with. Just get a cheap guitar. But yeah. What else can I say about this really? Yeah, it's really interesting actually because James Richards, the guy who's from my boarding school, whose dad was in the band Boys Don't Cry, who was called Nick Richards. James Richards, his son, I went to see Limp Bizkit with him, and the guitarist that they replaced Wes Borland with, his name was Mike Smith. And every time I look at him, when I look at him on stage at Finsbury Park, his hair was his haircut was the same as James. He looks very similar to James, or how James Richards looked when we were kids. It's just really bizarre. I mean, it's not really. I mean, because I know it's a reflection thing. That's all it is. That Mike Smith was reflecting James Richards, who I was with at Finsbury Park. Yeah. Yeah, it was so it was a free gig. We got there. So actually what happened was I went to James Richards' house first, and he lived in Kingston, and I got him to record the gig because it was on MTV2. It was a live gig on MTV2, so I got him to record it while we went to the gig, so we could watch it when we came back. And we went to the gig, and it was a free gig, and they had like a carnival, they had like rides and stuff like that, and like they had like a little fairground and stuff like that. And I went to, yeah, we were just wandering around the area, and there was these two people or four. It was a couple of people who came out, and they were going to go home because they didn't realize Limp Bizkit was going to be playing so late, and they had wristbands for the very front area because there was there was an area at the front of the crowd which was closest to the stage, and the only way you could get there was with a wristband. And so they gave me, I got one of the wristbands. James Richards got the other one, and I had to melt it with a cigarette lighter to get it to, because it was plastic. I had to melt it back together again, and I managed to sneak through. So I got through, and James got into the front crowd, and the two other friends that came with us, they tried to do the same thing, but they got caught, so they weren't allowed through. So I was really lucky he managed to get to the front. But anyways, yeah, it was the best gig I ever went to. I'll say that. And I've been to a lot of gigs. Well, it was definitely my favourite. And I've been to loads. So when I was that age, I went to loads. What other bands have I? Korn. I saw them at London Docklands Arena, and also went to Download Festival. I saw Papa Roach at Camden Barfly when I was about 15 or 6. I was probably 15 years old. And I actually, yeah, I hate to say it, I saw Lost Prophets on Virgin Megastore on Oxford Street the next day after Papa Roach. I didn't sleep at all that night. It was because my friend wanted to go see Lost Prophets. I didn't actually want to go see them, but, well, I didn't mind going to see them, but they weren't really a band that I listened to. I'd heard of them, you know what I mean? I went anyway. And then I went, there was a place in Brighton, a club called Concord 2. I used to go there to see loads of bands. I saw Raging Speedhorn, Killswitch Engage, El Nino, and others. Hell is for Heroes. Yeah, there's a long list. I couldn't tell you all of them. Quite often I'd just see what bands were playing there, and then I'd just check out their music, and I'd just go see who's ever playing. So, and I used to have loads of hoodies and T-shirts with all kinds of bands, and people used to steal them from me. People would stay around at my place, and they'd be cold. They'd be like, "Oh, can I borrow your hoodie?" It's like, "I'll go walk home and I haven't got anything to wear. Can I borrow your hoodie?" They go home and I never see my hoodie again. Stuff like that, Yeah, that happened quite a lot. Annoying. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what more can I say? What more can I say? I mean, this is the thing, I grew up without a dad around, and my mum, who's a lesbian, okay, I don't know if you noticed, okay, I posted a video on Facebook. So, on the Limp Bizkit Significant Other album, there's it's the last track on the album, and well, it depends which version of the album you get, but some have it labeled as Mind. There's one that says Mind of Les. Well, the thing is that my mum was a lesbian, okay, and then on another list, it's titled Rant. It's titled Rant, as in RANT, which my name's Grant, GRANT. Yeah. There's been some really heavy magic done against me. You see, the world is just, it's always trying to grab onto my energy, and so it's people treat me like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Yeah, that's what they treat me like. And then there's I feel like there's nothing left for me. at the end of it. You know what I mean? It's really difficult for me to. Do you know what I mean? It's hard for me. It's really hard. Anyway, um, I mean, imagine you're the support. That's the thing. I am the support that everyone leans on. Basically, that's an analogy. Okay, so do you know what I mean? Imagine almost 8 billion people, or something like that, all were leaning on you, yeah, for support at the same time, all the time. And you know what I mean. It's hard. It's hard. Anyways, I didn't want to make this video too long. Oh, that's another thing actually. I used to have a subscription to Kerrang magazine. It's a rock magazine, so it's like, they had when I was a kid, there was a TV channel called Kerrang, and I always used to watch it when I was on holiday. I basically watch it all day long. That's all I ever did, was watch Kerrang all day, pretty much. A lot of the time. Listening to all kinds of music. All kinds of rock music, right? But obviously, it's a good way to learn about all these different bands. And I was subscribed to Kerrang magazine, and it was sent to my boarding school. So yeah, when I'd go on holiday and I'd come back to school, I'd have a huge collection of Kerrang magazines. And my housemaster, he was never happy about me getting my subscription sent to the school. He was like, yeah, he was never happy about that. But yeah. But whatever, right? It's a very expensive school. So the point I was trying to make is that I didn't really have a male role model when I was a kid, because my dad wasn't around. My uncle-in-law, he never really liked me. That's the thing, he never really liked me. I always got the cold shoulder from him. So how are you gonna have a male role model who's giving you the cold shoulder all the fucking time, right? So what's that? What is that? I lived in a house with my grandfather for many years, with my grandparents, and my mom and her girlfriend. Right? So it's 3 women in the house, and a grandfather who's very, very quiet. He can be very argumentative. He doesn't really. He's a very awkward man. And so as a male role model, he wasn't really much use to me, really. So it was, he didn't really provide much for me. Let's put it that way. So, when obviously with Limp Bizkit, you know what I mean. Like, it was very easy for me to, do you know what I mean, to get into that. As a kid. Yeah. I was very drawn to it. Yeah. It's like, how's a man supposed to be? Limp Bizkit. But this is the thing, because the word Limp Bizkit is, what's the thing? Well, it's associated with the light, right? Because Limp Bizkit is a way of saying limp dick. Well, who's Limp Dick? Who is the one who told all the guys that, yeah, you need to have a limp dick, man. You know what I'm saying? Well, God told man, he's like, you need to stop sinning. You need to, lust is, a sin. Yeah. So limp dick it is then. You understand? So Limp Biscuit, Limp Dick, it's associated with the light of God, Jesus. Um, if you understand what I'm saying. So, um, what else could I say about that? What else can I say about that? Must be something else I can say about that. I'm sure there is. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I was thinking about something earlier on and I've obviously forgotten. Anyways, I mean, that's the thing, you know, because, well, that's the thing, you know. I always say that, don't I? But yeah, Limp Bizkit, they always used to, they toured with a lot of different bands. One of them was Kid Rock. You know, that's the thing. I'm Kid Rock. I'm Limp Bizkit. You know, I'm Korn as well. You know what I mean? I'm associated with. I've explained that one in a previous video. Okay. Um, sorry, my brain's working a bit slowly at the moment. But yeah, you know, there was the stories about Fred Durst and Britney Spears. Yeah. Yeah, I was watching a video about it, and the person was saying bread. You know, he was saying bread. Well, this is the thing, right? Because if you combine the two, Britney and Fred, you get bread. Yeah. You know what Jesus said? I am the bread of life. Yeah. And that's the thing, because when I was a little kid, I actually had a Britney Spears album as well. I'm embarrassed to say. And a Spice Girls album as well. I mean, that's the thing. I lived with a mom. I had a mom who was lesbian, who wanted me to be gay. Yeah? So when you saw the, you know, that's the thing, the third album by Limp Bizkit was the chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water. You know, it's like all these alien looking guys, you know, guys with bald heads, with, you know, alien looking eyes or white eyes, and they're surrounded by hot dog, well, frankfurters, right? And they got a chocolate starfish with what looks like a butthole in it, right? So it's a very sort of homosexual looking cover. I mean, that's the symbolism, isn't it? Yeah. And the thing is, my mom always wanted me to be gay because she was gay, right? She had anytime I ever got a girlfriend, she got incredibly jealous. She got very manipulative, and she got very controlling, and she was always trying to interfere. And she did it again and again and again and again and again and again. You know, when it first happened, I just figured, well, I was a teenager. And then as I got older and older, she kept doing it. And what's even worse is that the girls that I was with, well, they were stabbing me in the back as well. They were using me. because of my power, because they're demons being told by other demons, hey, go get close to God so you can absorb as much power from him, and then we'll take you somewhere else, and then you can be, you can steal his light and you can take it with you somewhere else. That's what everyone does to me. That's been my entire life. That's the last 37 years of my life. That's what I've had to deal with. And that doesn't just happen to people who are in close proximity to me, but it happens to people around the entire planet. Yeah, there are people in Australia doing it to me. It doesn't matter where you are on planet Earth. Yeah, it's the same story. People are always doing shit like that to me because I'm central to everything. I should probably explain the connection. So I've been posting all these videos on Facebook. If you're not looking there, then you can take a look there. My name is Grant Salvin. So that's GrantSalvin. So I was showing how there's a connection between Fred Durst and Freddie Mercury, and me, and all these things, right? Because yeah. There's the homosexual connection. The world's been fighting to destroy me since the day I was born in this body, to corrupt me. Now, a lot of people are going to get punished for that. I'm hurt. I feel bad. I feel broken. And I'm still waiting to get myself fixed. It's been a very painful process. Okay?